Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us again. My mother brought me 2 big bunches of celery, so I've cooked up some celery soup. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to show you a recipe that is gluten-free and made with half the carbs of normal thickened cream soups. So pause and write the ingredients down if you like. And hey, while you're paused, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Then you'll be notified when we post new videos about twice a week. Now let's get cooking. I'm melting a stick of butter in my 5-quart enameled cast iron Dutch oven. And then I have 4 cups of chopped celery, 1 onion. That was a large onion, maybe a little larger than you need. And then this is 7 ounces of diced potatoes. 8 ounces has 26 grams of carbs as opposed to flour or cornstarch, which has easily twice that much. And we're going to use that as thickening. And then I have salt. I have pepper. I use red pepper flakes. You can use black pepper. And then I have 2 tablespoons of dill pickle juice, because I didn't have any fresh dill, so I'm using this. Then a quart of chicken broth, and I'm also going to use a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. If you have fresh dill, use that instead of the pickle juice with 2 tablespoons vinegar. Now I'm putting my celery in the melted butter. It's still melting, it's not totally melted. And we're going to wilt the vegetables before we add any juice. So I'm just going to add them all in here. I have my burner on about medium heat. And we're going to do this as we would a mirepoix. We're just going to cook it long enough to wilt the onions and to start the celery softening. I'm going to go ahead and put the potatoes in. And you know, people who eat gluten-free can thicken their soups with a variety of things. You can do this with rice. You can do this with cornstarch. You can do it with flour if you don't mind the gluten. I'm adding a healthy pinch of salt. But the lowest carb of your options really is potatoes. A cup of potatoes is 26 grams of carbs, approximately, depending on the type of potato. You would use a 1/2 cup of flour, which is going to be more like 40 grams of carbs, and rice is even more. And cornstarch is high too. We're going to cover this and just let it sit and simmer. We just want this to be softened up before we take our next step. So back to the potatoes. While you may think of potatoes as being high carb, in this application, adding the potatoes is going to make you end up with a soup that's about 5 grams of carbs per cup. So I'm adding the chicken broth now. Sorry, I was talking kind of fast there. I just wanted to get all that info in and not have a long video. So I'm pouring the broth in, and then I'm going to add the pickle juice. And you really do want that little tiny bit of vinegar, that little bit of acid. It adds a lot. And when I stir this up, I'm going to let it come back to a simmer, low simmer, and then I'm going to cover it. And I'm just going to cook it until everything is soft and mushy, because we're going to puree this. We want it to be really good and soft. 20 to 30 minutes, we'll check it. And this is what we're looking for. We want it to cook enough for the fibers in the celery to soften up, because the softer it is and the more of it that purees up, the less we have to strain out. And we will be straining this soup because nobody wants those fibers. So I let it cool a little bit just because I didn't want to splash hot soup, but it's still pretty hot. And I have my immersion blender, and I'm going to just blend this up until I've gotten rid of as many of the lumps and hard pieces as I can. And then I strained it through a wire mesh colander, and I didn't show you that because I made a mess. But you see, this is what's left. You push through everything you can, and what you have left is these little strings, these little fibers, which really bother me. I love celery, but I can't stand those fibers. So just get all you can in there, and you see we have a fairly thick soup here. And we want to taste it for salt and pepper, and this is about right. All that's left to do is to put in the cream. I'm adding 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. You can use half and half. I wouldn't use milk. That's really pretty thin for this soup. Unless, of course, milk is all you have. But the heavy whipping cream is going to add to the richness, and it's going to be so good. Now, all I'm going to do is stir it up, and I've turned the heat back on, and I'm just going to bring it back up to serving temperature, and then I'll plate this up, and we'll have it for dinner. Be right back. And here you have it. I've garnished with some celery leaves and a little sweet paprika. That adds some flavor and color. It's such a delicate light color. And oh my, this is so tasty. I love celery, and this soup has so much flavor. I hope you try it. I hope you like it. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you again tomorrow.